What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more... Oh wait, my book is back. Look at that. I have more RPG horror stories to tell. Yes, I actually went through the process and recalibrated the avatar so I can have this book stuck on me at all times. Yay. Anyway, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. DM kills party with a dragon. Means to do it. Years ago during AD&D 2nd edition game, our DM put us up against a blue dragon. He built it as an end boss type fight, though it would be difficult. However, he killed us nearly right away. If any of the characters lasted into a second round, I'd be surprised. The horror factor. First, it turned out to be a great worm, well beyond what we could have defeated at our level. Second, DM admitted afterwards this was intentional. He wanted to kill the party. In his view, our characters had crossed the threshold out of the ideal fun adventure levels. There were too high levels to do fun adventures anymore. Third, we had just gotten to 3rd level. Huh? Wait, whoa, something ain't right here. So according to this DM, apparently you guys have passed the level threshold where games are fun anymore as you guys reached level 3. Level 3, the point where most classes actually finally get their subclass options and second level spells open up and the fun can actually begin. That's what this DM considers like the threshold of like where fun is too much. At level 3, in my current campaign, every character starts at level 3 because it's like the perfect prime level to like have your subclass and have some experience and have your character be like at least somewhat experienced adventure within adventuring world and stuff. That is apparently considered like a cap for this DM. I could see this say like, you know, level 10, 11, 12 and so forth. Yeah, maybe things could be a little bit more challenging, but like what game are you playing where level 3 is an extremely high level to the point where you need to TPK the entire party for reaching level 3? At the time, DM would get really stubborn about ill-thought positions like this. In addition to think the characters were too powerful, he felt the characters were far too wealthy by the time they reached 3rd level and no longer had any motivation to adventure. It apparently broke immersion for him, since he couldn't see a reason to risk life and limb once you have enough money to live well. Not that the money was anywhere near that. He was seeing the numbers of coins in the thousands and failing to take the account of a lot of copper and silver. We only really had a couple of thousand gold worth of treasure, probably only a few hundred each really. Important context here is we were all around 11 years old. Huh. So an 11-year-old finds a party a little bit overwhelmed because they have some magical items, at least like 100 gold pulled together. And that's apparently too much for a D&D campaign. So you gotta TPK the entire party with a dragon. I'm assuming what ended up happening is that maybe your DM kind of bit more than they could chew and didn't realize what it takes to run an actual campaign and how to balance things out. For whatever reason, decided to overestimate your wealth and levels at level 3, but to consider that to be too high of a level, I think your DM would just way over their head and just overestimate y'all's abilities. Maybe they gave you too many magical items, but that's going to be a problem with the DM. Maybe they gave you too much money, even though having 100 gold between each other, like pulled together as a party of level 3 adventures. I mean, 100 gold is not a lot, I gotta be honest. Anyway, I think the problem isn't necessarily with the DM, but the fact that they are overestimating the entire game, being young and inexperienced, and that's probably what ended up happening. So I wouldn't hold it close to heart, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe level 3 is too high of a level, and maybe 100 gold is way too much for adventures to have amongst the entire party together. I don't know. What do you think in the comments below? I think it's just all just young DM, inexperienced than anything, and overestimates what the party can do at level 3. That's basically it. Anyway, let's get to the next story for today. Best friend's father uses D&D as an excuse to creep on me. Hello, long-time lurker here. Hope this is a right subreddit for this story, as it's more focused on the events that happen outside of the campaign. This happened about 8 years ago when I was in my teens, so memory might be a bit hazy. The story is about myself, my best friend who I'll call Sarah, and this guy who I'll call Tom. Some important context before the story starts. I was barely older than a minor at this point in my life and had very recently come out as a lesbian. Tom knew this because he was Sarah's father. He also knew that I was reclusive and vulnerable. I suffered with a lot of anxiety problems, didn't have many friends, and had a hard time saying no to people. With that out of the way, let's get into the story. This is quite literally a one random day scenario where Tom had invited me to a session with no prior discussion of D&D in all the years I've known him. I don't even remember how the topic came up. I just remember him saying that he had a group he played with and asked if I'd like to come along for the next session. He promised that he'd tell Sarah about it and bring her along too. I'd never played D&D before, but I love RPG video games, so I was really excited about the opportunity to not only play D&D, but play it with Sarah. I agreed, and Tom said he'd pick me up on the night. I also gave him my number. Although I don't think about it at the time, it was strange that he asked for my number since Sarah was supposed to be there too, and she'd be able to contact me instead. With the lack of context, I'm gonna take a wild guess that maybe Tom wasn't like a biological father of Sarah, maybe like a stepdad? I don't know. Maybe they just really weren't close. Maybe they don't really communicate often. I don't know, man. Families can be weird, and as somebody who had a stepdad that was a piece of work, that's the best way to call it. It depends on the family dynamic. Not everybody's gonna be close to their family or want to necessarily be close to their family. Not to splash damage some of my issues onto the story, it's just that's how things are sometimes. Things are complicated when it comes to dealing with family. Anyway, let's continue. Tom came to pick me up. When I get to this car, I saw that Sarah wasn't there. I asked him why, and he just said that she was busy that night and might join us another time. I was disappointed but still wanted to go, so I got in his car anyway. Sorry to intervene, but I just want to make sure we put this in pictures. So we have a minor that's alone in a car with somebody else that is not their parent, that is already an adult, but not their parent. Unless the families are really close and stuff and they can trust each other, I feel this is going to be a recipe for a bad time. But never know, maybe OP's and Sarah's family are really close and stuff. Maybe they'll, like, you know, help each other out. I know some families that can get like really close and like they'll help each other out and drive each other's kids around to wherever they gotta go, school, baseball practice, you know, stuff like that. Some families that kind of work together. It's like, you know, it's a whole mentality of it takes a village, so to speak. But in this situation, this can only turn bad. When we arrived, I was introduced to the group, which consisted of about 3 other players and the DM. They were just starting a new campaign and were all making new characters. Being the newbie that I was, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing at the time. Thankfully, the group was super nice and welcoming. The DM helped me in making my very first character. Before we continue, I hope your parents were aware that you're going somewhere with Tom and supposedly Sarah, or at least they know who you are exactly. Like I said, dude, this is already a sketchy situation as it is. I describe it, but to be honest, it's not really relevant to the story. The only thing of note that happened was Tom being weirdly white knighty towards my character, like taking a big chunk of damage by flinging his body between my character and a monster, or insisting I take most of his loot. I just thought he was being nice because it was my first time, and he wanted me to enjoy myself, so I wrote it off. The session concluded after a couple of hours and I couldn't wait for the next one. Tom took me home and asked me if I'd like to see him before the next session so I could make some more characters, learn more about the game, etc. He promised that Sarah would be there next time, so I agreed. I have a feeling that Sarah will never be there, especially if Tom is coming off a bit more creepy. I don't know, man. I just find it really strange. Why would you want to invite your daughter's friend to go hang out with your D&D buddies and stuff when you could just find another adult to hang out with? It's literally the level of To Catch a Predator kind of setup, and it's just gross. The day to meet Tom and Sarah comes around, and Sarah once again isn't there. Tom once again says that Sarah was busy, but that we could still hang out. So I agreed and got in his car. This is where things started to get really weird. Oh, here's where it gets weird. I thought that hanging out with your friend's father or play D&D session with their buddies was already kind of weird as it is, but I guess it gets worse. He first took me to a cafe and brought out some character sheets for me to work on. I was excited and immediately started trying. Oh, okay, hold on. I gotta make a comment. I feel like there's some sort of self-preservation instincts that aren't kicking in here. Second time around, Tom shows up out of nowhere promising that your friend, Tom's daughter, Sarah, is gonna be there, and she isn't there, and you don't question it? You just don't think like, hey, maybe I don't. Maybe I should call Sarah. Something feels wrong, Tom. Tom, what's happening over here? You don't even question the fact that Tom is just, hey, yeah, sorry, Sarah couldn't make it, but get in my car again. Something about it feels really strange to me. I don't know. I feel like your self-preservation instincts aren't kicking in. I immediately started trying to make one before realizing I still don't know what I was doing. Tom had brought a couple of his books out for me to look at, but nothing made sense to me. Thought about asking him for help, but something about the vibe was off. Tom was being weirdly quiet. You know that feeling you get when you can feel someone staring at you even when you're not looking at them? Yeah, I felt that. It freaked me out so much that I couldn't concentrate on the character sheet at all, but I didn't want to look up from it either. Eventually our drinks came and I had to abandon the still blank character sheet. Tom started talking to me about all kinds of stuff that wasn't to do with D&D at all. Things like how he saw me as his friend, and how he had seen me that way since I was 13. How it was nice to spend time alone together. How pretty I looked when thinking about something. Oh, God, call 911. These are the kind of things a grown man should not be saying to an underage girl or underage person anyway. Doesn't matter. It's extremely inappropriate. It's extremely creepy, let alone to really any person, even if they were adult. That is the kind of stuff you're admitting, saying, I thought it was really creepy thoughts about you when you were just 13 years old. I thought we could be friends, or more than friends. Ooh, woo, Pepe Shy. This is creepy fucking behavior. Tom is extremely creepy, extremely creepy. And this is the perfect time for you to realize that maybe you shouldn't interact with Tom. Maybe you should go, like, I don't know, call your parents or something and tell them to go pick you up from this place because you feel extremely uncomfortable. Maybe, I don't know, potentially consider talking to the employees and ask them to call the police. Let's see how this plays out. I hope you do the right thing, OP. Basically, he was being a creep. I got super uncomfortable and just really wanted to go home, but as I said earlier, I had a lot of anxiety issues. Telling him off that I changed my mind and wanted to go home wasn't something I could do, so I just tried to put on a smile and get through the day. I'm not gonna OP blame because what happened has happened, and I get anxieties can be a little bit difficult to deal with, but I mean, the one thing you probably don't want to do is hang out with a creep that makes you feel really anxious and afraid and scared and everything. Like, if he's being a creep, you probably want to go with somebody that's not a creep. Maybe talk to the employees at the cafe shop. Maybe go to the bathroom, lock yourself, and call your parents or wait until they arrive. Your mom, your dad, a family member, something, anything at all. I don't know how the story is going to end, but I really don't like what I'm reading so far. I really don't like what I'm reading so far. Tom did even more weird stuff, like trying to hold my hand or cuddle me in public. I'd always lean away from him and try to make it clear that I didn't want to be touched without actually saying it. At one point, we passed by a shop that sold D&D books. As we passed, he said to me, the books are really expensive. I could lend you the money for some, but you'd owe me something for it. I immediately got bad vibes and said, no, I'm good, thanks. Took me to get lunch at pizzeria and paid for all the food. At one point, he offered to get me an alcoholic drink, even though I wasn't old enough to drink. He also asked me what my favorite alcoholic drink was, then recommended a drink to me. He said, you have to be careful with it though. It's so good you don't realize you're drunk too much until it's too late. Then anything can happen to you. Ugh. Once again, I got a really bad vibe. Literally the sentence after that was him inviting me to a Comic-Con on the other side of the world, offering to share a hotel room with him, and making a comment about ordering wine for room service. I said something about not having a passport and being scared of heights, both true, and said no. He kept pushing, offering to help me get my passport, but I just mentioned my fear of heights again. Not once since the cafe had we talked about D&D at all. When it finally came time for Tom to take me home, he tried to pressure me to spend more time out with him, but I made some excuse that my dad wanted me home in time for dinner. I still remember clearly as day what Tom said to me during the car ride home. Before I get to this point, why is your dad just allowing you to go with somebody else's dad around? What are your parents doing? What the fuck are your parents doing? Just allowing you to say, yeah, hey dad, I'm gonna go with Sarah's dad to this place. Just me and him by themselves. I think it'd be really fucking weird. The first thing you should do is call your parents and say, hey dad, hey mom, I'm in a really awkward situation and I need help. Please come help me. Please come rescue me. I get it. Sometimes like you don't want to get in trouble with your parents for doing something you shouldn't be doing in the first place. But like at the end of the day, this is a moment that you need to call for help from parents and guardians that you can trust, which are your parents in this situation, I would assume. Or if not them, maybe some sort of a friend or another family member that you can trust, an uncle, a grandparent, and grandma, whoever at this point. You should not be around Tom right now. Still remember the clear as day what Tom said to me during the car ride home. I don't want to take you home right now, but I'm going to anyway because it's the right thing to do. You know that feeling when your blood runs cold? Yeah, I felt that. I suddenly became very aware that it was just us in a car, that he was the driver, and that really he could take me anywhere he wanted, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. Thankfully, he did take me home and try to set up another meeting where we would go to the movies. I gave some wishy-washy I'll think about a response and headed straight inside. I told my dad about the whole thing, Who was angry? Of course. Yeah, no shit, Dad would be angry. This is an extremely inappropriate situation to be in. Your first instinct when Tom is taking you somewhere will be first to question why Tom is taking you anywhere without Sarah around. Maybe I shouldn't get in a vehicle with my friend's father, because my friend is not even here, and this guy is just going to be taking me somewhere to meet his other buddies and stuff. Why is this even a thing that's happening? Why are you joining for his social call? Now get this. When I next saw Sarah in college, we were in the same class, I told her all about that weird day and had mentioned at some point about how she was supposed to be there. She absolutely flipped out, saying that Tom had never once mentioned anything about D&D, taking me to a session, or seeing me that weird day to her. She knew nothing about any of it, despite Tom promising me that he would get her involved, and said that she would have loved to come with me. She was also angry at how her father had treated me that day and how much of a creepy a-hole he's been to me. She decided to call and confront him right then and there, tearing into him and demanded to know why he'd be creeped on her best friend behind her back. After the phone call, she told me that he turned everything on me and said that I had not only exaggerated things, but it was my fault for not saying no. Thankfully, Sarah is an awesome friend, so she didn't believe anything Tom said about me. We're still really close friends now, and I haven't spoken to Tom since that day. It was really sad that this was my first experience of D&D, and unfortunately, I've never been able to play again. Not because I've been put off or anything, I just haven't found anyone else with the same interest as me. Thanks for reading my story. I know it's not a typical horror story since nothing bad actually happened in the game. It was more someone using D&D as a way to creep on me out of game, but at least nothing more happened. If anything, this is a reminder about the most important and probably one of the most ancient lessons of all time, chronicled in all the ancient texts. Don't get in a vehicle with strangers. I get Tom is like your friend's parent, but like unless you know them well, like really well, and is like a family friend and stuff, don't get in a vehicle, don't get in different places with strangers. Just don't do that. Something seems sketch or not right. Don't have them drive you to places and be the only ride back. Also, seek out friends with people that are of like, you know, your age and stuff. Having a grown man try to befriend and get close to basically a minor, it's no, don't do that. Nuh-uh. And once again, don't get in vehicles with random strangers. Stranger danger is a thing. Remember, stranger danger. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.